Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you guys for joining us again this week. So today, we are diving into why you can't get ahead in this business.
Yep.
We have coached a lot of people, a lot of different companies.
Hear a lot of stories.
We've got a lot of friends in the industry, and it feels like there is especially for some reason right now, because economy's slowed down, lending is slowed down, the ability to get funds for renovations or new builds has slowed down, that people keep coming back saying, what am I doing wrong? Why am I in this position again? And so what we want to talk about is people, contractors in this industry wanting things to be different and then them not changing. And how do we actually say, hey, I want things to be different, and now this is what I'm going to do differently to make things different. Right. So we're going to start today talking through what we've heard from contractors. Spots where contractors get to where they say, one of these mindsets that they land in. So the first mindset we see with guys is, I give up, this isn't working, right? Like I've been running, I'm
doing everything I can possibly do, and
I'm ready to give up.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this roller coaster, right? Like I'm killing it, and then 6 months later, I'm back to square one. What's going on? Okay, now I got to kill it, and I'm back to square one, and I can't grow revenue. I can't get ahead.
That roller coaster feel, you have those moments where you feel like, hey, I'm doing this, and it's that it feels like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Yep.
Right? Instead of 2 forward, 1 back, but you're making forward progress. Sometimes that roller coaster is like, how am I back in this spot
2
again?
steps forward, 5 steps back. Like why was I better 3 years ago financially than I am today?
Yeah.
I've been working my butt off. I've been working harder than I've ever worked, which kind of goes along with the next one that we hear all the time. I just can't push through the ceiling. Like I am putting in 80-hour weeks, and I have maxed out, and so this is where I'm at. This is all the money I'm going to be making, and I'm not making that much, and I'm working my butt off. I just can't get through that ceiling. It's not worth it because I'm putting too much time in and not getting enough return.
Yep.
And I've maxed out what I can do.
Well, and honestly, in that spot, a lot of standard mentality is, all right, so I'm just going to give more of myself.
Yep.
I'm going to work harder. I'm going to put in later nights. I'm going to not go to my kids' things. I'm going to work on Saturdays. I'm going to work on Sundays. And you end up putting in 60, 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, right, where you're just killing yourself and you don't see any difference.
Yep.
It's just the same thing, right? I'm not making any more money. I'm just working harder.
Yep. Yeah. Another spot that guys get to when they come and we sit down with them is they feel like they're on an island. Because in this industry, everybody's against us. You got a customer trying to get over on you, trying to beat you down. You got crews that are trying to get as much money out of you as they can and beat you down. You got employees sometimes that are just draining you because you're carrying all of their burdens. You've got, everybody's dependent on you, and you're just the one person standing there holding everything together.
Well, and you've also got other contractors around you that are not helpful. They're coming in and trying to underbid, undercut you. It's a competitive world. As well.
The last one that we had listed out is I can't get any good help.
I hear that one a lot.
All the time. I've made a hire. I've made 2 different hires. They didn't work out. They're just not. I just can't find any good help, or I can't find any good crews. The crews are terrible. Every guy that I bring onto my job site ends up screwing it up. So I just end up back in the truck, getting out there and getting it fixed. Yeah. Where it's like why am I doing this? Why am I trying to grow? Because I make some hires and it just costs me money. Like this is dumb.
Well, right? I mean, I hear people say all the time, nobody wants to work anymore. Yeah. Everybody just wants to show up and get a paycheck. There's no ethics anymore. Nobody wants to actually go out and put in a good day's work to make money. Those days are lost, and there's nobody out there anymore that's willing.
Yeah. And so all of those mindsets that people come in with, that we sit down and talk with them, or that you're feeling right now, always ends with I've got to do something different, or this isn't going to work anymore. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's funny. People will come to us with coaching at that spot, and we're like, listen, come before you get to that spot. That we can help you at that spot, but let's get ahead of it as opposed to ending in that location. But really, when you comes down to it, it's like either something's got to change or I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't be doing this anymore.
Well, and a part of the reason why we're talking about this is that currently it's rolling towards the end of the year.
Yep.
And that's where we hear a lot of this stuff, where people are kind of taking inventory.
Yep.
Where am I? Well, crap, I meant to do this. Beginning of the year, I said I was going to do this. I was going to have this many hires. I was going to be making this much money. I was all the different, goals or things that I wanted to accomplish. And you get to the end of the year and you're like, all of these things apply.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't worth it anymore. There's nobody willing to work. I can't make any money. This is too hard. And a lot of people at this time of the year, at the end and towards the beginning of the year, get to this just kind of downtrodden space of like, it's not worth it anymore.
Yep.
And most of the time it's because we've all heard the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different to happen, right? And if you look back and you're honest with yourself and you go, okay, so what have I really done to actually make change? Well, I'm just going to dial in and work harder and be better, right? And everyone knows that's not going to work, right? So that leads into the next spot.
I read a book and I started doing it this way, but then I got too busy, right? I started doing this. I got super into having a really tight schedule. I got into the numbers and started trying to keep my QuickBooks accurate. But 3 weeks in, I had to run a job site, so I got too busy for it, right?
Yep.
That's kind of the mindset of I want to change, but I'm not willing to put the time in and the effort in and the self-control in to actually push that change to be part of the new norm.
Yeah. Well, and a part of the purpose of this podcast is identifying, I'm in that space.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can't get yourself out of that thought process, it's either not going to work or you're going to end up in the exact same space.
Yep.
Right. And so the point is of let's identify, let's be honest with ourselves. Yeah, I'm in that spot.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I'm angry. How do I change my perspective and go a different direction?
And even with that, even if you're not in that spot, we've all been in that spot. We've all been out of that spot.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we've been all around. One thing that I always say to guys that they're like, no, things are fine. Things are going fine. I'm good. I got my bills paid. You don't have to be broke to have a broken system, right? It's okay that things are going decently and good. That's because you're juggling it right now. But something's going to hit to where the system doesn't work. And so what we need to do is fix systems even in a season that's not broken or doesn't feel broken, right? Everything's working fine. Well, it won't work as soon as you take on 2 more jobs because then you're going to be back to spread too thin across the board, and you're not going to be able to handle the stuff you need to be doing.
Right.
So let's systemize that stuff so you don't go broke, so you don't get into that bad spot.
Well, when things are going smooth, everything's fine. You have that. How are things going? Yeah, everything's fine. Our bills are paid and all this stuff. Turn the pressure up, right? Of money problems, client problems, crew problems, employee problems, any of those things that are turning the pressure up on your company, and valves are going to start popping of the things that are broken, right? Just because, like you said, because you're not broke, it doesn't mean there's not something broken that needs to be looked at and make sure that when the pressure does go up, it can hold up.
Yep.
Right?
So if you're in that place, today we're talking about the 5 things you need to start pushing towards, and this is going to be more of like a 30,000-foot view where I need to start organizing. And then next week is the second part of this series where we're actually getting into the weeds. What you can be doing today, 3 things you can do today to start moving forward. So today's podcast, though, is about kind of the general ideas of what you need to be looking towards and where your mindset needs to be changing
the perspective.
and then
that's
next
right.
week's going to be this is how we when the rubber
Some
hits the road.
executables. That's right.
Yeah. So in that list of things, the first thing that we always try to push guys to is accountability. Accountability. And it seems like, oh yeah, I had an accountability partner at church and high school. What is that? Right? Like what does accountability mean? Because we all started companies so we didn't have to have a boss. Right? And so it's what do you mean by accountability? Jared, if I was a contractor in a spot that I'm struggling, what do you mean by I need some accountability?
Well, I actually had this conversation with a specific guy that I coached recently. The problem with not having accountability and outside source accountability is that I'm only accountable to myself.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. This guy specifically also doesn't have family, kids, any of that stuff. So he's literally only accountable to himself. So if he doesn't do the program, if he doesn't do the systems, if he doesn't do this and just, I'm just going to do it a different way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything.
Yeah.
Right? Accountability is spelling out, here's where I want to go. Here's what I want to do. I want you to ask me questions about it, whether it's weekly, monthly, every other week, like sitting down, having a lunch, whatever it is. It's somebody that can help you stay on track with what you decided you were going to do.
Yeah, and that's what our coaching is. That's what the coaching program is there's different levels, there's different amounts of meetings. There's once a month, there's twice a month, there's a bunch of different ways that we build it around people's specific needs.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is, hey, I know in 6 days I got to sit down and talk with Jared about what I said I was going to do. Where am I going to find time to get that done?
Yeah.
So when we sit down next Tuesday, we can actually I can show him the progress and we can start on the next thing.
Yeah. Well, and when I'm only accountable to myself, it takes incredible discipline to stick to the things that I said I was going to do, especially in this business, because there are so many fires and emergencies.
Yep.
It is very justifiable on the day that I was planning on a 3-hour sit down with myself to work on an employee manual, an employee handbook, or hiring process, whatever, some kind of process that you're working on your company. And you know what, this client's a little unhappy, so I'm going to put that off and I'm going to go do this other thing.
Hop
right?
in the truck and drive out to that job.
It doesn't matter, right? Because I've got to do, it's easily justifiable.
Yeah.
Right. But if I have somebody who's going to ask me, hey, you said you were going to get this paperwork executed because our next step is this, and if we don't have that, we can't do this thing, right? If you've got somebody that's going to ask you that question, it's going to help you keep you on track.
Yep.
Nobody likes accountability. Nobody wants somebody coming in and meddling in their business and feeling like you have to justify yourself. That's not what this is for. This is if you found yourself with I keep back in the same spot. I'm on the hamster wheel. I want off. I want growth, and I just can't get over. This is a key piece.
Yeah. What kind of continuation of accountability is the second thing that we have, because without the second thing, there's nothing to be accountable for.
Yeah.
So the second thing that you need to start looking at is, I need to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And so when people say, hey, I need to, next Monday, I'm going to take 2 hours. I'm going to wake up early, get up 5 to 7 a.m. I'm going to work on my company. They sit down at 5 and they say, all right, what should I do? I'm going to check my emails. Ooh, I'm going to update my signature on my email. That's great. That's something I needed to do. Oh, I need to pay that bill. And so they start going through a task list that needs to get done. And that is not working on growing the long-term benefits and systems of the company.
Yeah.
So eating the elephant one bite at a time is, we have like a 280-point checklist that we go through our 18-month program with our guys and say, all right, step one, you don't need to worry about all 300 items that are on this list. These are the 2 things you need to be working on in the next 2 weeks. Can you handle these? Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Oh, you already have that done. Great. Let's move to the next one. And it's bite by bite to know, listen, I don't need to solve all the world's problems today in my company. All I need to do is get these 2 main things done, and then that will set up the building for the next 2 things I got to do in our next meeting.
Right.
So the accountability is not saying, hey, Jared, how's it going with business? Are you working on the business? Are you doing good there?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not accountability. Accountability is, all right, listen, dude, in 2 weeks from now, I need you to have these 3 things done. Can you do that? Let's talk about this third one, because it's going to take a lot of time. The first 2, it's setting up A. The second one is setting up B. That's great. Those take 30 minutes.
You said you're ready to hire a project manager 2 months from now. Well, to do that, we've got to get these things done.
Yes.
If you're not making forward progress on that, you're delaying your hire, or you're raising the risk of hiring the wrong person.
Exactly.
Right?
So whatever the next spot in the growth of your company, which we kind of look at and plan out, what's going to be next coming up. That is what we need to be preparing for. I don't need to be writing an employee handbook if I don't have systems of how the job site runs.
That's right. I got nothing to put in the employee handbook.
I'm not going to hire anyone until my job sites are actually clean, running well, and my crews are giving good product. I've got a good list of customers coming in with the pipeline. If I have all that set up, then we can start talking about hiring.
Yeah.
But let's not start building out an employee handbook when we're 8 months away from hiring.
Yeah.
And so because of that, people sit down and think, oh, I know I said I need to do this, I need to do this, and they just start kind of going off on rabbit trails on tasks that don't actually need to be done today, but it's just stuff that they've heard that you got to do this for your business. I need to do marketing.
Yeah.
You don't need to do marketing yet. Like, you don't have anything to market.
Yeah.
If you had 10 people call you tomorrow, you can't say yes to those 10 people. So understanding one bite at a time is how we eat the elephant to get the systems in place. And that's an 18-month process with us, right? It's not by tomorrow. And with that being said, what is the most important bite you need to take today that's going to help for tomorrow's bite?
Yeah, well, and one of the things that in our list here of these things that we're going over, I want to take one of those and bump it up the list.
Yeah.
That will actually go in front of, one bite at a time, how do you eat an elephant? And that's get out of the weeds and start looking at the horizon.
Yep.
Right? What that means is, where am I going? Right? Where is my direction? What do I want to be at the end of the year, 2 years from here, 5 years from now? What's my exit strategy of the company? Do I want to sell it?
Yep.
Right? And so knowing where you're going is going to help dictate the actions of what you need to do.
That's right.
So then you can take that and reduce it down to small bite-sized pieces.
That's
right? So figure out, get out of the weeds. And another thing that we mean by this is that it's very, very easy. And most of the people who at the end of the year find themselves like, I'm still in the same space. If they look back, they spent the majority of the year head down, grinding, doing what needed to be done to pay the bills.
Yep.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, but that's not conducive to growth.
Yeah.
That's just conducive to paying bills. Right. And so you've got to plan strategic times to, where am I going? Get your head out of the weeds for a minute, 1 hour, right? Where you can back away, turn your phone off, nobody's calling you, and where am I going? Make a plan of where I want to be at the end of the year, and then back that back up, right? Yeah. Back it out to 12 bite-sized pieces. Every month, here's the stage that I need to be going. And then, you can go even further than that, which is what our growth path checklist does, is that it actually takes those down into very specific action items that need to get accomplished.
And this ties into the other thing on our list being, we're changing from reactive to proactive. And so changing from reactive to proactive alongside getting your head from looking down of what's happening today and tomorrow to what's happening 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now.
That's right.
And then having a game plan to eat the elephant one bite at a time, and then accountability to wrap that all together. So that's kind of the process that we're laying out. But that being said, the reactive versus proactive, what we see people do is they get super excited about changing. Okay, I've got to do this. I got to do this because, I need jobs. I'm out of jobs. I've got 3 jobs running right now, which, I can be running 7 jobs if I had the customers coming in. So I'm going to change things. I'm going to get organized. I'm going to do this. And we see this day in and day out with people signing up for our software. So people will sign up for the software in a desperation. I got to get organized. I got to do this. They get in, they spend 2 days on it, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone for 3 weeks. And we're like, oh, that's weird. Okay, that person is, not using it.
Literally in the meetings with them, of the onboarding meetings, like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. This is going to help me so much. I can't wait to make this is going to make such a huge difference.
Yep.
And then they're gone.
And then 3 weeks later, they come back and say, okay, I'm ready to do it. Sorry, I got busy. And the problem is, it's the mentality of, my long-term vision for my company is 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's the longest I've got. I need to find jobs now. I need to stay busy, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks worth of jobs ahead of me. Great. Check those boxes. Relax. Okay, so I've got that. Now I got to execute that work.
Well, and if I've only got a 2-week vision, proactive things have a lower priority than the reactive.
Yeah.
It just does, because proactive means I'm going to get to the end of 2 weeks, right? It doesn't matter. The value of spending that proactive time is less in your brain. But if my direction is 12 months out and I know where I'm going and I've got to get there, the only way I'm going to get there is by taking these proactive steps. The value of those things go up in your head, and you will work to commit to stay more committed to them.
That's right. So, again, we're talking kind of theory of where your mindset needs to go. And with all that being said, kind of walking through what we just said, it all starts with self-awareness. Because as Jared was just saying, I need to be able to step back and think, okay, what is Clark missing? Right? Not just living in the moment, but stepping out as my own boss, as the outside owner of this company versus the manager of this company, trying to get self-awareness of, okay, if I was his boss, how am I changing him? What am I going to hold him accountable to? Once we can start seeing ourselves in that way, and we start distancing ourselves from the weeds in the moment, we're starting to look, how do I be proactive? What's 6 months from now look like, and how do we get there? What's 12 months? What's my 5-year plan? Looking at that, now I got to be proactive on building that out. So reactive still has to happen because you're still in the fires because your systems aren't set up. So I'm going to have reactive time and I'm going to have proactive time, and try and start changing the scales to where it's less reactive because there's less fires because my systems are working, right? And so going through that, having bite by bite pieces that you're going to be working on, and then bringing in some sort of accountability. If you're not ready to hire a coach like us for the consulting side of things, find someone to keep you accountable. Find another person in the trades that you're in to sit down and say, listen, let's work through this together. We have very, very effective and build your own programs with ProStruct Alliance. So if you're interested in talking to us, again, this feels like a big commercial, but that's what we're here for. This is what we do. So from that, and winding this down, there are really 3 stages that we want to find you in. And so when you get to a spot to where you feel like you can't get ahead of the business, you're often in level 1. And again, we have different levels for different things, but for us, what we're talking about is these are the 3 levels of recovery. When you're in a spot where it's like, I'm paycheck to paycheck, I don't know how bills are going to get paid, that is level 1 of recovery. What I am doing in that stage is saying, okay, how are my bills getting paid this week and this month? Where's my money coming? Where's my money going? How am I going to make this work? Do I need to borrow money? How is this going to happen? That's a level 1 recovery stage.
Writing systems and processes at that point doesn't matter.
Help. Your goal when you're in that spot is, how do I fill the coffers for the next 4 weeks? How am I going to have enough jobs to pay the bills and keep the lights on? Once you get beyond that, you're in level 2. Level 2 is saying, okay, great, I know what's happening this month. What's the next 2 to 3 months look like?
Well, level 2 is I've gone through level 1 and gained myself some space. Right? I've gained myself some time that I'm no longer in a triage emergency code blue. I'm not in that space right now. I've worked to get out of that, and now I've got a little bit more breathing room. So what's next? Level 2.
And if I don't go to level 2 with what we're talking about, I'm going to
circle right back around.
You're back in the same boat as phase 1, level 1.
That's right.
So level 1 is triage, right? It is, I am bleeding. I can't sleep because I don't know where money's coming from. We got to figure it out. If you're in that space, all your goal to do is to fill. I mean, you're hitting marketing. You're doing the grind list. We have a full podcast on 6 things you can do today to churn up work called the grind list. You're doing that stuff to try and at least have the money to buy you some runway. Phase 2, level 2 for us is, all right, I've got that plan down. Now I need to look at what's the next 2 to 3 months look like. How am I going to fill those up, and how am I going to manage those jobs? And that's still kind of the hunting jobs, marketing, Facebook, wherever you're at, Google, whatever you're doing, I got to bring in jobs. Once I've got a 3-month pipeline, I know what's happening, I know what's going on in my company, I know we can last for 3 to 4 months with the jobs here. Now we're going into phase 3, level 3.
In phase 2, one of the other things that you're assessing in that spot, you've given yourself some breathing room. Why did I end up at the triage? Why did I end up in a code blue? What caused that to happen? You've got to fix that thing during that period of time. You're working to fill the pipeline to give yourself some more space, some more breathing room, money coming in. But if I don't fix the crack in my process that caused me to go to this space, I'm going to end up back there.
Well, that's kind of going into level 3, because level 3 is assessing the systems. Right. Level 2 is like I need to keep that space going. I need more runway, and as we're getting more runway, that's when we're shifting into thinking about the cracks and the holes that got us there. Right. And so level 3 is, I feel like we are on track in terms of we are safe and financially, and we've got some jobs, and I'm good. Now I'm going to shift to, where were those cracks, what's broken, how do we get there, and what systems do I need to change to make sure we don't drop back in.
And this is that place where the statement that you said earlier, just because you're not broke doesn't mean that it's not something broken.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And there's a place where people get to where they're like out of it, they're back in financial stability, and they feel like, okay, good. I'm finally, now I just need to keep going.
I did it.
Yeah.
Good, we're there. And it's this cyclical after, you might work up to phase 2 to where you've got this 3-month, and then you think you've arrived, and then you're back at phase 1 in 3 months from now, right? And so you're not fixing the problem that's causing this. All you're doing is temporarily bandaging it, but you're not treating the actual problem.
Which is the epitome of the roller coaster we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Right? It's that up and down and up and down and up and down.
I'm doing great. Things are good. We're killing it. If everything goes as planned, I'm going to make so much money this year. And then all of a sudden, that job drops. That project manager messed up 3 jobs at once, right? All sorts of things can happen to make you slide back. And so the goal is, I've got some structure. I've got some jobs coming in. Now we need to look at how to ensure the systems that we have in place keep us very, very streamlined to where there's no holes in the bucket.
Right.
We start looking at that, and we start looking at continuing that pipeline from 3 months to 6 months. So that's kind of the 3 phases we want you to go through. If you're in a spot that we've talked about, this is the direction you need to be thinking. Big picture, I need to be looking at this stuff.
Right.
Next week, we're going to be talking about how to do this. What 3 things you can start today doing that's going to walk you down these paths to get you to these spots to where it's building accountability. It's building the ability to take the bite-sized pieces to be able to start going towards your growth. It starts allowing you to get proactive versus reactive. And it's literally take notes next week because you can do these things right away. And this is the first step, the baseline fundamentals that we have in terms of if I'm going to grow systems that are going to keep me and my company growing and safe, these are what have to be baseline happening.
Every one of our coaching clients that comes in, this is where they start. That's where we start with them.
If you guys want to talk with us, we love to chat. Go to prostruct360.com and hit contact us. If you want some software, go there as well. We've got a free version. We've got some paid versions as well if you want to add on and upgrade and have QuickBooks integration and email integration and vendor payment integration and a bunch of other stuff. So if you're interested, please go to ProStruct360. Love to have you on the software.
And if you like our content, hit like, subscribe,
Absolutely.
hit the bell, all the stuff. That helps us out.
That's right. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.